Hey everyone, what's up? It's Jeff from GamerPops here again. Today we are going to talk, well I guess I'm going to talk about Hand of Fate. This is our video review for that game. No, not that Hands of Fate. Hand of Fate, I'm talking about the collectible card, roguelike, action, mashup of a bunch of different genre games. Nice little indie game from the folks at Defiant Development, available for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Now, this review and the video you're going to see is of the PS4 version. And, you know, when you mash up this many genres, and this got a lot of different things. RPGs are in there, collectible card games are in there, action, dungeon crawling, roguelikes, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, you mix up that many genres, you know, it's going to come down to how well it all fits together. And that's not going to be an easy task. How well can you balance out all those things and still make an entertaining game? So let's find out. The question is, does the game deal you a good hand or a bad one? Let's find out. In Hand of Fate, you find yourself sitting across from a mysterious man at a card playing table. We don't know much about him, so we might just call him the dealer or perhaps the master. Who you are and how you got to this place don't seem to matter. You could be an adventurer, a warrior, or just some guy who got lost along the way while vacationing with the family. Heck, you could be a fertilizer salesman for all we know. Regardless, you now find yourself locked in a mortal life and death game of cards in a strange, creepy place. All we're missing is a wrong-kneed would-be satyr named Torgo who looks after the place. Hand of Fate, as I mentioned earlier, uses mechanics from a lot of different game types. Each of the 13 levels is presented in a very role-playing Dungeons & Dragons kind of way, requiring the player to use their imagination as they navigate various areas and face numerous perils. Kind of almost has a choose-your-own-adventure vibe to it. There are also choices to be made with results determined by a card draw, as opposed to the more traditional rolling of dice.
Select your desire.
Level structure is where the collectible card game element kind of comes into play. Each level is essentially a multi-floor or area dungeon, the layout of which is determined by the encounter cards that you start with and earn as you complete different levels. There are other cards from which you draw potential weapon upgrades, along with health and supply replenishment. The encounter and weapon decks can be adjusted before each level, providing the deck building aspect of the game. Early on, you can take just the recommended builds and be okay, but later levels are going to require more hands-on management so that you build your deck appropriate to the perils you're about to face. Of course, the whole card aspect means that luck will play a significant role in the proceedings. Depending on how the cards are drawn in each level, you could end up with a cakewalk through to the final boss, with heavy upgrades and increased maximum health, or you could limp your way to the end with your default weapons, no supplies, dwindling health, and a jacked up opponent waiting for you. Good luck with that. At one point, one of my first battles of one of my levels was against the same beast who'd been the boss of the level beforehand, and that was without nearly the upgrades that I'd had before, which was terrific.
Our old friend, the Jack of Plague, returns to fight another day.
One aspect of deck building that didn't make it into Hand of Fate is the typical perpetual arms race of buying new cards to try and keep ahead of the competition. As a pure single-player experience, all cards in this game are simply earned by playing and clearing levels and getting tokens and other things like that. That means no pitches for DLC card packs or boosters. If you have kids or you yourself play Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, whatever, you know what that can be like, whether they be the physical or the virtual versions of those games, Hearthstone being another one as well. This case is just a nice, contained single-player experience, at least for now. Once you get going, the game's dungeon crawling aspects become more clear. You proceed onward, choosing which path you want to take, depending if the level's laid out that way, facing various people or creatures, encountering shops for a chance to replenish supplies or upgrade weapons, fighting bad guys, and dealing with ambushes, and making various deals with the devil. Each level is its own separate entity, thus the only thing that will carry over from previous levels is the cards that you have unlocked for play up to that point. In fact, if you play this same level multiple times, you'll see that the layout will be totally different each time around, which makes the game feel quite fresh, especially if you keep dying a lot. Now, when it's time to fight, unlike typical RPG games, which are turn-based affairs, roguelikes are like that as well sometimes, you'll actually get to participate in real-time battles with whatever monster card or cards the dealer has drawn. The combat in these is very basic, and it's going to seem pretty familiar if you've played any of the Batman Arkham series of games. Enemies range from easy fodder to merciless, heavily armored, projectile-shooting jerks. You'll probably notice here it's kind of got that attack, dodge, counter vibe that Batman games have. It's not the most robust combat you'll ever enjoy. It's not nearly as fleshed out as Batman or other games, but it works as a supplement in the overall game picture itself. And at least you're given a fighting chance versus having to rely on turn-based combat and the crapshoot that can sometimes be. Put all this together, the game's overall approach essentially amounts to the old adage of jack of all trades, master of none. I found that the pieces came together quite nicely, and since I'm not really a hardcore player in any of these genres that have been blended in, the whole experience actually worked for me. If you are a fan of any of these types of games, I wouldn't blame you if you found them to be lacking, because it's not really what it's going for. It's a nice overall game, but it's not a great roguelike. It's not a great collectible card game. It's not a great action game. It's a great overall experience, but it's not going to scratch that itch of the hardcore players of those type of genres. That's not really what it sets out to be, and that's not what it wants to accomplish. Now, the game at times suffers from some technical issues. There are some odd stutters and frame rate drops. These seem to be isolated to typically when a bunch of cards are flying around or being shuffled. So it's not usually happening within the game, gameplay itself. Considering the PS4's capability to handle a lot of objects moving around independently, like for example in the launch title / tech demo Knack, I'm guessing this is from porting from the PC instead of optimizing for the PS4. Whatever, it's a minor issue that doesn't affect gameplay, so it just kind of annoying more than anything else. What does affect gameplay though is the lack of camera control in battle sequences, and that's probably been my biggest complaint regarding to the gameplay itself. If you're going to give me an arena in which to battle, I should be able to control the camera and adjust my view to where my opponents are. Not in Hand of Fate though. If you don't keep everybody in front of you, it's a fixed camera basically over your shoulder, and heaven forbid you sort of get to the north end of the arena, because now you can't see everybody in the south end that's behind the camera. And that's not good, because when you lose sight of them, you can't see them attacking, and it's also really troublesome when they're shooting projectiles and you can't see them or the indicator telling you they're coming, because you've either got to dodge those or you've got to reflect them back. So the camera probably could have been a little bit better thought out. Unfortunately, that basically means you have to employ a strategy of keeping everything in front of you, which isn't necessarily good if you're the, the hit and run type of player that I like to be. And then there was this. Now, to be fair, this could be a PS4 problem. I've had this happen with other PS4 games, so it may not necessarily be limited to Hand of Fate, but I need to point out for the record that this did happen. Fortunately, the autosave seems to kick in after every encounter, and I was able to get back to this spot again and not lose my whole level progress. See, I was worried about this because, when this happened, if you die in a level, your progress for that level is entirely wiped out, and you have to start that level all over again, regardless of where you got to. And I was afraid that crashing out would basically wipe out everything like I had just died. Fortunately, in this case, a game crash didn't equal death in this case. And I got my lots of experience with dying, believe me. The game gets pretty difficult starting into the second half and whatnot. So, but any tokens you've happened to win, you do get to keep, and that's going to help you get more cards, which maybe will help you win the next time. From an overall accessibility standpoint, you're pretty much thrown into the first level right away, with nothing in the way of an overt tutorial. Fortunately, the first 2 to 3 levels are fairly easy, and the dealer does a good job of explaining the nuances of the game, making for a kind of de facto tutorial, just not one that's as in your face as some modern games have gotten us accustomed to. It's funny seeing the dealer actually at times explain to you nicely how the game is, and then telling you in the next breath that I will curse you. From there, the difficulty increases, though, of course, as the dealer introduces said curses, more powerful enemies, more brutal encounters, and pretty much anything he wants to throw your way as the stakes get higher. level he talks about rebalancing the deck, and other things like that. It's kind of funny actually, and you getting equal parts happy with your progress and also mad that you're beating him. By the way, I like the dealer as a character in Hand of Fate. That's pretty much the only dialogue you get. Everything else is just sort of cannon fodder or jerks that are going to beat you up. He's written with some personality, and the voice acting I thought was actually really well done. You don't always see that in smaller independent games. He's equal parts helpful, taunting, matter of fact, and spiteful. I kind of dig him.
There are many who will be pleased that you have defeated the likes of my lesser king. As for me, I think you have but proven that I must defeat you entirely. A set of new trinkets for you. You will need them, and more. You face the first of my kings. Each has shaped the nature of their forces with the strength of their will. They will turn that power to your destruction. Really? Is that what you're going to do?
If you're wondering if it's okay for kids to play Hand of Fate, you've seen enough video now probably to make that judgment for yourself. But I guess the easiest way to answer that, sight unseen, is asking, would you let them play Dungeons & Dragons? Or maybe the Batman games or whatever. With the added caveat of the actual depicted battling with some blood and violence, etc. My 11-year-old son, he's kind of in this kind of stuff. I would let him play the game. I don't think it'd be an issue for him, but not my younger ones. The game is rated T for teen, and I think that's about right. So that's our review. Despite not being a big time fan of the genres involved, I like the whole package put together. I found it quite entertaining. I found the dealer character was very well done for an indie title. Actually, just don't have to throw that for an indie title qualifier in there. I thought it was well written and well voiced. Kind of surprised actually that I enjoyed it as much as I did. I wasn't sure how I'd react to all the different parts. And aside from a few technical glitches, it was and some brutally escalating difficulty towards the end, which isn't really a knock against the game at all. It's more a knock against my ability as a player. I actually really enjoyed the game, and I would recommend it for folks who are looking for that sort of a single-player experience and something a little bit different. You've certainly seen enough of it to probably see for yourself just how entertaining it could possibly be for you. So that's our review for Hand of Fate. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the area below. And don't forget to click on the links below here that hopefully I'm pointing to that are really not coordinated there. To subscribe to our channel, be notified when we have new videos that go up, and also to see other great videos that we have up. And don't forget, we still have the website GamerPops.com, where we have summarized versions of these video reviews and other great content. So thanks a lot for watching this video review, and we will talk to you next time. The master is pleased.